right, so welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you in the room and those of you online, my name is Camden Hutchison. I am the director of the Center for Business Law here at the UBC Law School. And I don't really know what the people online are seeing. I don't know if they're seeing me. Hopefully they are. I don't know if it matters that much. You can hear the sound of my voice. So I'm going to be talking about the law school's business law concentration, which is an elective academic program here at the law school focusing on business law. So the business law concentration is essentially, it's just that, it's a concentration. So you can kind of think of it as maybe like minoring in business law. It's recognized by a notation on participating students' transcripts. So it is formally noted on your transcript that you've completed the business law concentration. I think you also get like a sort of mini certificate, right? But that's something we print out for you, so you get that as well. But it is an official thing. It's officially noted on your transcript. So completion of the concentration requires 6 specific mandatory courses, including the business law capstone, and I will talk about those in a couple of minutes, plus an additional 6 business credits, and this can be like 6 credits from like any business law courses, basically. So it's like 6 plus 6. It's 6 mandatory courses plus an additional 6 credits, right? And there's a pretty long list of different courses you can use to satisfy those credits, and I'll talk about those as well. Now, the main thing I want to emphasize for those of you here and those of you online is that meeting these requirements and actually getting the concentration can be quite challenging from a scheduling standpoint. And the reason for that is your entire first year and about half of your second year is taken up by mandatory courses that you have to take as part of the law school's broader curriculum. And that has, you're probably not aware of this, but that has kind of slowly expanded over the years. There's more and more courses that you have to take, and that leaves less and less room in your third year and half of your second year to fit in this 6 plus 6 requirements. And this is sort of exacerbated by the fact that not all of the required courses, not all of the 6 required courses that you would want to take are like, they're not offered every semester, right? So you really have to kind of think ahead of how you're planning this. So that is kind of what I want to emphasize more than anything else in this session, is that I think that the business law concentration, meeting the requirements, is very doable, but it's something you have to think about in advance, right? It's something you have to plan in advance. Okay, so what is the value of the business law concentration? Why would you do this? Well, first off, it signals a commitment and interest in business law to major law firms, companies, and other potential employers, right? So it's formally noted on your transcript, and it's something that you can show to future employers to demonstrate your interest and commitment to business law. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, but you don't actually get this notation on your transcript until you finish the concentration, i.e. when you graduate from law school. So the transcript notation is not particularly helpful in terms of, like OCIs or getting a summer articling position, because it's like, it's not something that really you don't complete it until you graduate from law school, and you generally get, like your first law firm job, you like get it before you graduate from law school. So it's not helpful in that sense. I want to be clear about that. But if you get a job through OCI, that's probably not the last job you'll ever have. And I can tell you, firsthand, I'm the director of the Center for Business Law, and so we have a Dean's Advisory Committee, which is sort of like the board of directors for the Center for Business Law. It's composed mostly of partners at major law offices in Vancouver, and they have all impressed upon me how serious they take the business law concentration and the certification. So it's definitely something, like if you were to lateral, you could use it to market yourself. So it is something that law firms value. The second reason that it's valuable is it provides substantive knowledge of different aspects of business law. So if you complete this concentration, you will have received a very rigorous, hardcore program of training in business law, right? It's kind of a roadmap for really getting a solid business law education in law school. And then finally, concentration students are eligible for a number of program-specific awards There's at least 3. I believe that there's more. And so these are student awards that you get, for like best student or like best exam or whatever. But they're specific to students who take the business law capstone. And to be honest, like I think this current academic year, I think there's only 7 people taking the capstone. So you're like, you know, that's like better than 50% odds you're going to get some kind of award out of it. So, if you're really into awards, it's a good way to get an award. Um, okay, so in terms of the mandatory courses, these are the 6 mandatory courses that you have to take. So you have to take these courses to complete the business law concentration. Taxation and business organizations, both of which are 4-credit courses, and then commercial transactions, securities regulation, secured transactions, and the business law capstone itself. So these are the 6 foundational courses. If you're interested in business law, I would recommend that you take, all of these courses anyways, except for maybe commercial transactions, but certainly the others, I would recommend that you take. And the business law capstone, I'll talk about specifically in more detail. So the business law capstone is one of the required courses. It's a 3-credit course, and it must be taken in the spring semester of the 3rd year. So that's something you want to be aware of when you're planning this out. It has a number of prerequisites. So taxation, business organizations, and securities regulation, and 6 credits of other courses from the concentration. So taxation, business organizations, and securities regulation, those are all courses that are required as part of the concentration, but be aware that they're also prerequisites to the business law capstone, meaning that you ideally want to be taking them before the business law capstone, right? They're prerequisites. So technically you have to take them before the business law capstone. So you can't save those courses to your last semester. The capstone course itself is only taken by business law concentration students. So if you're not in the business law concentration, you cannot take the capstone. It's currently taught by 2 practitioner adjuncts, Lisa Kokoske and Quan Lim. They are both attorneys at Bennett Jones. And the business law capstone is designed to be an integrative and interdisciplinary, and to incorporate theoretical and practical elements of business law for advanced students. The course has a lecture component, which includes guest lectures and interviews with practicing lawyers and corporate executives. The business law capstone also includes a final presentation made by students in the course to an actual board of directors. And so I think this year the students are putting together a business law presentation on sort of a, kind of like a hypothetical issue or what have you, to the board of directors of Teck, right? So Teck is like, one of the biggest mining companies in Canada. So it's a very, very serious company, and you are actually presenting to the actual board of directors of that company. So one of my student assistants in the Center for Business Law, Justin, he is he's actually not here right now because he's downtown doing the capstone. But he's in the business law concentration, and he told me that one of the most valuable things about the capstone is that it's like pretty much as close to sort of real world experience you're going to get in a classroom setting, right? So it's more than a simulation, right? It's sort of, it's not quite real, but it's about as close as you're going to get, right? So you are, dealing with issues that are hypothetical, but you're presenting them to actual business lawyers and actual business people, in a setting that's very close to what you would be actually doing in practice. Okay, so those are the required courses, the 5 courses plus the capstone. Now here's a list. This is like the menu of optional courses that you can take to satisfy the other 6 credits. So there's a lot of them. I'm not going to go through them all. You can see, there's many courses. I recommend corporate transactions because I teach it. There's some moots on here, right? So there's a 4-credit moot, and then there's a number of 5-credit moots. So you can do sort of a business law related moot to satisfy some of these credits. And then there's some experiential opportunities as well. So I'll talk about those. There's 2 experiential courses, the business law clinic and the corporate counsel externship. So these are both 4-credit experiential opportunities. The business law clinic is a clinic where you're representing typically small business clients. So it's a clinic. For those of you who don't know, a clinic is like a course. It's an instructional setting, but what you're doing is you are providing actual legal services to actual clients who actually are in need, right? So it's like, I think for the business law clinic, it's often small businesses that have limited resources, and so they turn to the clinic to get free legal representation from law students. And you're doing that under the supervision of a couple of adjunct instructors, right? So that's what the business law clinic is. And in the corporate counsel externship, we call it an externship. It's basically an internship. I don't really know what the difference is. But what you do is you are an intern essentially for 1 day out of the week. So 1 day a week, you go and you work in the in-house legal department of a company in Vancouver, right? And so there's a lot of, we have a lot of like actually quite prominent companies that participate in this, like, Lululemon, Hootsuite, et cetera. So pretty major businesses in Vancouver. And you're embedded in their legal department and you're actually doing real legal stuff. So those are the 2 experiential opportunities that we offer. They're both 4-credit courses. And then there's like a reflection paper that you write that's like another 2 credits that you have to do. So if you do either of these, that knocks out your 6 optional credits right there, right? So if you just do either of these 2 experiential programs, that takes care of your optional 6 credits. However, both of these experiential programs are highly competitive, like meaning that they're hard to get into. So do not bank on getting into either of these programs. It's like almost like I want to say it's like 1 out of 10 students actually get into these. Like they're very hard to get into. So if you get into them, that's great. That kind of takes care of your 6 optional credits, but they are tough to get into. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, given the law school's broader curricular requirements in the 1st and 2nd years, satisfying the business law concentration requirements can be challenging from a scheduling standpoint. Now, as the director of the Center for Business Law, it's sort of up to me whether or not the rules get bent or waived for any particular student. And I just want to state that I'm open to allowing students to waive and modify certain requirements. And so I do not mean that as an invitation to just ask me if you can like completely disregard, like half the requirements of the concentration or something like that. Like I'll probably say no. But for example, I kind of want more students to be able to do the concentration. That's my philosophy about this. And so I'm willing to be flexible about the requirements. So for example, if, for the capstone, there's a number of prerequisites. If say, I don't know, you can't take tax until, I'm just making this up, but like say you can't take tax until your last semester, like, and if you just ask me, I'd probably just waive that and be like, okay, well, you don't have to take it as a prerequisite. You can take it at the same time. Cause it's basically up to me. Maybe in extreme cases, I would just allow you like out of one of the requirements, or if like you can't quite get the 6 optional, we could figure something out. I want to emphasize that I'm flexible about this. If a student is asking for too much, or I think they're trying to, kind of abuse the process, I probably won't allow them to do that. But if you're generally like, you want to do the concentration, but you've got other things going on, scheduling is tough, I get it. I want to be flexible with you. So I really want to emphasize that. On the same point, I think a lot of students that I have talked to or heard about anecdotally have not done the business law concentration because they were doing study abroad, and they either assumed, based on no actual research or information, that they couldn't do the business law concentration if they studied abroad, or they actually believed, based on research and information, that if they did study abroad, they would not be able to meet all the requirements, right? Because they'd be at a foreign university for a semester. So first off, there's nothing about doing study abroad that precludes you from doing the business law concentration. The only problem is if you're doing study abroad, that's a semester where you're at a different university, so you're kind of not, you're not able to meet these different prerequisites. I want to be flexible about that too. So, for example, say, oh, you have to take securities regulation, but the only semester you're able to take it, it turns out you're actually on study abroad in Australia or wherever, or Singapore. If the university that you're at offers a similar course, I'm happy to just allow you to use that, right? So if you're doing study abroad, if you're taking courses that are approximately similar to either the required courses for the business law concentration or some of the optional courses for the business law concentration, again, like, reach out to me or reach out to the CBL assistant, and we'll share our emails. And I'm like, again, my philosophy is like, I want to make it work, right? So if it seems like you're in a jam and you're making a good faith effort to try to meet the requirements of the concentration, I'm willing to be very flexible. So I just kind of want to emphasize that for students. In terms of actually applying, students who are entering their third year and who intend, and so I guess that means finishing your second year. So students who are finishing their second year prior to registration, and more relevantly, prior to May 31st, you need to submit the completed statement of intent form to the CBL administrative assistant. That is the email on the screen. So you fill out the form, which is very short, and you submit it to that email on the screen. The deadline is May 31st. So if you're a first year, food for thought, keep this in the back of your mind, or in front of mind when you're registering for courses. And then if you're a second year student and you think you want to do this, you need to submit your application by May 31st. And again, there's probably some flexibility around that, but shoot for May 31st, please. And that's how you apply, right? So I think that the hard part is not the application, which is just a single piece of paper. I think the hard part is fitting all of these different courses into your schedule. Okay, so that's it. A pretty short presentation. I would wrap up by saying that the business law concentration could be a valuable experience for students who are committed to business law. Again, I've heard good things from our current students who are in the concentration. I've heard positive things from partners at law firms who are in like sort of a potential employment situation. They look upon the business law concentration favorably, and I've heard very good things from practicing lawyers, including quite senior practicing lawyers, who did the business law concentration themselves back in the day, right? So like I was talking to like a partner at Blake's who's graduated from UBC Law School 15 years ago. I think he might have actually been in the inaugural cohort of students who did the business law concentration. And he was just raving about it. Like he told me was invaluable, especially in his early years, starting out as a corporate lawyer, that he's really glad he did it. So I think it does have value, although it's somewhat challenging to meet all the requirements. And again, I'm kind of the one who makes the decision about whether or not we can, bend or break certain rules. So reach out to me if you have questions about that. And I'm certainly happy to answer any other questions right now. So yeah.
So my question is about the capstone.
Yeah.
What, do you have a syllabus or something, or like, can you briefly just introduce?
I don't have a syllabus. I mean, I don't teach the capstone. And I think the syllabus probably changes a bit year to year. Because I don't teach the capstone, so I actually do have a copy of the current syllabus, but I wouldn't want to share that without kind of asking the professors who teach it first. So maybe if you shoot me an email, I can follow up with you about that. But I would say in general, like the way that the capstone works, my understanding is that you're being taught by two adjuncts. It's a lot of like, I think the front end is a lot of kind of like lecture material. right? And so you have guest lecture, so you'll have somebody come in and like, I do M&A, and then they talk about M&A, and then another person will come in and be like, I do securities, and they'll talk about securities. And so I think the early part of the course is a lot of pretty traditional lecture material, even though it's being taught by practitioners. And then later on in the course, you kind of ramp into the more experiential aspect of the course where you're putting together a present. So it's different in different years, but like sometimes students will be sort of given like a hypothetical transaction that they have to put together. They almost always do some kind of hypothetical board presentation, like for the public company context. So it's sort of my understanding, having not taken it myself, is that it's sort of a combination of like a lecture course with a lot of guest lecturers and an experiential course. Yeah. No questions online. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So the competitive part is the competitive part is the business law clinic and the corporate counsel externship. Those are competitive experiential programs, which are they're only optional courses within the business law concentration. So you do not have to take those to get the business law. So I want to be clear about that to anyone listening. You do not have to take either of those competitive experiential programs to do the business law concentration. Although they are competitive, and like I'm happy to give you more information about those. To get the concentration itself, you just have to meet the requirements. It's not competitive. Like you just do it. So if you just take the courses, you get the concentration. And I guess in theory, I mean, the capstone could get oversubscribed, but we're nowhere close to that currently. So I think if you just take the courses, you'll get the concentration. So the application it's really more of an indication that you're going to do it. And then as long as you take the courses, it's automatic, is what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so for those, so the application process is competitive, and I don't know if you guys know, is that like going on? Okay, so same time frame. Um, so for those, um, the way it works is you apply for them, and the directors of those two programs, so Tyson Grattan is the adjunct who runs the business law clinic, and then Kareem Amlani is the adjunct who runs the corporate counsel externship. They get all the applications, and they kind of take the first cut, and I use kind of whatever methods they want to use. Right, that's sort of up to them. It's within their discretion. I mean, I think that they look at grades, they look at cover letter, they look at expressed interest, they look at maybe other intangibles, and then they sort of present to me kind of a short list of like who they think appealing candidates might be, and then I'm the one who kind of pares that down and makes the final decision. And so, what I'm going to be looking at is pretty much the same thing: grades, um, does the cover letter make sense? And probably, I would say probably the two most important things are grades, particularly in business law courses, and then also an expressed interest in business law. So either in the cover letter or just clearly from the transcript, it's like, oh, this is a student who's interested in business law, right? So if it's like a student who you get their cover letter and their cover letter says, yeah, I want to do this, period. And then you look at their transcript and it's like environmental litigation or whatever, then like that's going to be less compelling of a case. So yeah, I would say that those are probably the two, to speak frankly, probably the two most important factors are grades, particularly in business law courses, and then just having taken business law courses or having some kind of other explanation as to why you're really, if it's not clear from your transcript, like some kind of explanation in your cover letter as to why, like why I should believe that you're interested in business law. No questions online. Are there people online?
Question online, is there any minimum passing grade for the requiring course to get the concentration?
That's a great question. Not that I'm aware of, and I'm saying that with very little confidence, but it doesn't say. I think you have to pass it. That person here, like, I don't know. Don't get a D plus in your classes. I don't know. Like, I think you just have to pass them. Yeah, as far as I know. That person, if that's a real concern for you, let me put it this way. Yeah, I think the answer is basically you just have to pass the course, right? So you just have to pass the course. That's my official answer. That one caught me off guard a little bit. You just have to pass the course, and you're good. But that said, if this particular person in the chat, if you have some specific concern, like you fail all of your courses or something, email me and I'll double check. But I think you should be good. I think as long as you're not failing the courses, I think you should be. Yeah, I think. If that's a particular concern for that student, I would ask that student to email me, and I will double check. I will like double check the records, but my understanding is if you pass, you pass, and if you fail, you don't pass. But I guess maybe to be more helpful, if the student is asking like, do you have to get like above a B or something? No, you do not. You don't have to get great grades in these classes. You just have to, you know, skate through. That's good enough. Maybe don't take one of the experiential courses like the business law clinic or the corporate counsel externship. They're very hard to get into, so don't take one of those. Don't get into one of those and then like completely half-ass it. Or like or like don't, like one student did, don't get into it and then drop out at the last minute because you've just wasted a space for somebody else. That actually happened this year. So don't do that. I feel like I should say more about um, the business law concentration. Um, if you take BizOrgs and corporate transactions with me, that's 7 credits right there, and that's its own award. So um, you might as well go for the whole concentration. I don't do. Is any thoughts from? I mean, you guys kind of work on some of the stuff on the back end. Do you have any? Yeah, how's the QR code gonna work? Just put it on the screen or? So here's a QR code. So point your phone at the screen and that will take you to the web page that has the application form and also the list of required courses and then the pool of additional optional courses. Yeah, I'm trying to think like any other issues that have come up. Like we had what were like the questions that we got last year were like, it was around study abroad. And I'm of a mind to be even more flexible about that going forward than I was last year, or I was this year. Yeah, I think there was one student who wanted, and I think I let them do it, right? Yeah, so I think I let them do it, but I'm again like I'm even like I just want more students to do this. That said, I'm not trying to oversell it. Like I'm not saying it's like the most amazing thing in the world, but if you're going to be taking a lot of business law courses anyways, you might as well. And I guess, maybe like another thing that Justin said, he sent me an email kind of describing this, is he said one thing that's good about the concentration is it just gives you sort of a structure for taking like a lot of business law courses that would be helpful when you're a business lawyer, right? So it's kind of like, I would think of it this way. It's like if you think you're going to go into business law, and some of you, I don't know who's listening, but some of you might be first year, some of you might be second years. It's kind of hard to figure out what you want to do as a lawyer when you're in law school, but some people figure it out quicker than others. I remember my own experience. I was pretty sure I wanted to be a business lawyer by my second year for sure. Like I was, I had made that decision. So if you're one of those kind of people and you do have a strong sense that you want to be a business lawyer, um, the concentration I think gives you kind of a roadmap of like the courses that you would want to take. Like I think all of the courses, all of the required courses, again, maybe with the exception of commercial transactions, those are all courses that you would want to take anyways. Right? Like, like if I had a student in BizOrgs and they're like, I want to do business law, what courses should I take? I would tell them, taxation, secure transactions, securities regulation. Those are the courses I would tell them to take completely independent of the concentration. And then the 6 optional courses, that's actually, I mean, that part is actually pretty easy to meet, right? Because that's like you saw the list, it's like a very long list of courses. And, it's like, in some of them, I'm like, it's like Japanese, but it's just like they're pretty random. So I think that those are pretty easy to meet. If you do one of the experiential courses, you've pretty much got it. You can almost make it with a moot, right? So there's a number of 5-credit moots, so it'd be like a moot plus something else. Like, and that's the kind of thing where it's like, hey, Professor Hutchison, I met, I got 5 optional credits, but I'm missing the 6th. Just we can probably work something out. Again, I'm very willing to be flexible about this. You just probably want to talk to me about that. You know, sooner rather than last minute. Like if it's like you're like, I'm graduating tomorrow, can you make an exception? That's gonna be tougher than if you sort of forecast it in advance. Um, any other questions? Okay, so just want to emphasize, if you have any questions, you can email me or you can email the CBL assistant. They have good info as well. And if that's it, I think we can probably end this there. So thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you people online for tuning in. Oh, coming in hot, last minute question. Um, I guess so. First thing I would say is wait, is this person a 1L? Can you ask them? I'm not sure I totally understand. Well, you have to, like when you get your grades, maybe that's what I'm confused about. Okay, this is like, the person is not here in person, so I can't really ask for clarification, but like, I would say your grades don't really matter that much for purposes of the content, unless you think you're going to fail. And so I guess, first off, if you turn in the application statement, if you turn it in tomorrow or if you turn it in on May 31st, I don't care, right? So I don't think it's really a big concern. So that's the first thing I would say. I don't think there's a huge rush to turn it in. And then the second thing I would say is that I don't think your grades are really going to impact it unless you're already meeting some of these requirements and then you've failed them or something, which I think is highly unlikely. So I think probably not a big concern. I would just submit the application whenever you feel good about submitting it, as long as it's by May 31st. Okay, great. Any other last minute questions? Okay. Well, thank you everyone again.